Hey everyone, quick note. For those of you who have been around on the Loontunes channel for a while, you will know that due to my move, we had to skip Disney month this year, which totally sucks. It's been a tradition here on Loontunes for 4 years. As a slight consolation, I'm releasing a new Disney-themed series discussing all the fan theories and secrets related to Disney films, which you're about to watch the first episode of. Of course, talking about cartoon theories on the internet is something that a lot of people do, but this is an idea that I've had since the beginning of Loontunes 5 years ago, and I'm finally able to execute it. And you guys know, I love me a good bit of speculation when it comes to tunes, so hopefully you guys will appreciate my take on this style of video. Thanks for hearing me out, and enjoy.
Disney is known and loved for their wholesome and family-friendly stories, making them a prime target for interneters everywhere to dig deep and uncover Disney's dark secrets and underlying mysteries. Today, we'll investigate one of those theories and determine whether there's something to it or if it's simply a goof.
Okay, so how's this thing gonna work? Well, each of these theory reviews are gonna have 3 parts. The first part is the proof. This is where I will abandon all skepticism and argue vehemently as to why this theory is 100% legitimate. The second part is the goof, where I will ruthlessly cut down the theory and supply as much evidence as I can to debunk it. The third part is the truth, and yes, I did think about calling it the truth for rhyming purposes, but, well, no. So in this segment, I will take an even look at all of the evidence and figure out where we will sort of land in the end, delivering a harsh and swift verdict. Okay, it might not be all that harsh or swift, but it will be some form of verdict. With that, let's begin with the proof. So let's talk about this theory. The idea at a glance is that in the Disney Pixar movie Up, after the famous and brilliantly told love story that is the first 10 minutes of the film, we eventually arrive at the event of Ellie's death. And shortly after, Carl too died of a broken heart. You know, the whole adventure into the clouds and to the magical world in a balloon-lifted house. Well, that all represents Carl's journey to the afterlife. And Russell, the Boy Scout, well, that is Carl's guardian angel, his very last badge assisting the elderly that he needs to ascend to the next rank. Well, once he gets that, he will get his wings, which is now a common trope coming from the movie It's a Wonderful Life. And for you youngsters, yes, I know it's in black and white, and the people talk old, but give it a chance. It's the best episode of The Twilight Zone you will ever see. What's the Twilight Zone, you ask? Well, you see, it's this thing where... Okay, so here's the deal. People send me theories all the time along the lines of, you know that thing? Yeah, well, guess what? The character was dead the whole time. And I'm like, yeah. But this theory actually really works. I read it and rewatched Up, and it kind of blew my mind. Usually, when you hear someone talking about Up, they tend to be talking about the famous first 10 minutes. But you don't hear so much about the rest of the movie by and large. And interestingly enough, where that 10-minute block of scenes ends is where this theory begins. Head to about 11 minutes and 20 seconds where we see Carl at Ellie's funeral holding their signature blue balloon, which they usually have used to communicate. You'll notice later how Russell used to play a game with his dad.
Then we sit on this one curb right outside, and I'll count all the blue cars, and he counts all the red ones.
Interesting how he was calling out the blue cars. Now, there have been a few fan theories about this Carl is dead thing, but I've got a few things to add to further legitimize it. This scene at the funeral is among them. I submit that this sequence where Carl goes from the funeral to his home is the very night where he retreated into his home and died of a broken heart. A slow fade to black further accentuates this, and a jarring wake-up seems to start the journey anew. The entirety of the fantastical film that follows is all a part of Carl's transition to the afterlife. Of course, when we all go to a Pixar flick, we suspend our disbelief. Fish can talk to each other. Sure. Toys come to life when we aren't looking. Okay. A house can be lifted by simple balloons. Yeah, I'll buy that. But with Up, it's hard to deny that things become insanely fantastical almost immediately after Ellie's death sequence when they never were before. I mean, Carl was a balloon guy, so he's always had access to those balloons. He and Ellie could have done the flying house thing together whenever they wanted. And let's talk Charles Muntz. Pre-Ellie's death, we see that Charles Muntz's dogs have some little machines that wash and walk them, but post-Ellie's death, the dogs have talking collars, they cook gourmet meals, and literally fly planes. Sorry to tell you this, 1940s, but we still haven't come that far. And what's more, no matter how far you suspend your disbelief, you cannot tell me that these two men in the present day of 2009 are the same age range. Yeah, see, Charles Muntz in this scene, conservatively, is about 30 years old. To be an established explorer with worldwide renown and notoriety, yeah, you would need some time to build that up, wouldn't you? You couldn't be like 19. Carl here is a 10-year-old kid watching the movie, conservatively. But when they meet 70 years later, maybe more, they're basically the same age, which would posit that Carl is maybe 80. Point is, Muntz would have to be like 110 years old, or maybe even more. And meanwhile, we have this 110-year-old Charles Muntz climbing blimps and having battles. I mean, this has to be all a part of a fantasy, wouldn't you say? There's another point about this theory that I haven't seen anyone else bring up. That is the afterlife as it's portrayed in films. Think about movies like Casper, Ghost, The Others, and of course, one of my favorite forgotten phantom films, The Sixth Man.
But Anton Tyler is coming back to give his team a ghost of a chance.
Hey, don't knock it till you tried it. Bottom line is, with any tale of the afterlife, there's always a reason for souls or spirits to stick around the world of the living or some kind of limbo until they fully pass on. And there are two big reasons for that. Number one, they have unfinished business, something they have to take care of before they can pass through. Number two, they don't know they're dead and have to learn some kind of lesson before they can pass. Of course, we all know the story of a man who never knew he was dead until he completed this sort of mission to allow him to pass on. The point I'm making here is, in the film world, there are no limits to the strange worlds and rules that would be involved with the trials to enter the afterlife. For Malcolm Crowe, for instance, he had to help someone and come to peace with his wife. For Carl, he would have to separate from his earthly tethers and learn to move on from Ellie, in essence. And let me just say that watching Up through the lens of a ghost movie is one of the most fun Disney watch-throughs I've ever done. The movie does, though, make a big point to show Carl's attachment to so many of his physical belongings, from his mantelpiece items to a special book from Ellie, and most importantly, to he and Ellie's chairs. Throughout the movie, we see him struggle to let go of a lot of these things, but the movie seems to continually task Carl with letting go of them, from trashing his household items to setting his house ablaze to actually forcing him to let go of his very house in an extremely literal way. All of these trials are a part of Carl's moving on process, and every single crazy thing you see is all a part of that. Carl's guardian angel manifests as a kid because of the fact that Carl and Ellie were never able to have one. Frustrating as he may be to Carl, he is a part of this process. Carl's childhood idol, Charles Muntz, manifests as a genius who did achieve all that Carl ever imagined. He thought the best of Charles Muntz, even though in reality he was openly disputed and denounced. And as a part of Carl's ascension, Muntz did discover Paradise Falls. Muntz did create a device to make his dogs be able to talk and fly planes. So why did he end up as a complete dick in Carl's afterlife transition? Well, Muntz being a bad guy, that's all a part of the process of Carl letting go. He had to learn that his very hero wasn't what he thought he was in order to let him go. Just like his house, just like his treasured chairs, he had to learn that those things, those memories, weren't what mattered. Ellie was. And as Carl is able to let those things go, we see him gradually become more spry and nimble and even youthful. I mean, remember the start of the film? And then towards the end of the film. Not the same guy who couldn't quite make it up the stairs. People will say that this is simply symbolic, but he is quite literally becoming more able as he learns these lessons. As the film goes on and Carl lets go of more and more things that he's clinging to, he becomes lighter and draws nearer to his understanding. Further evidence that he's making his transition to the afterlife. Okay, you've had your fun. It's time to get realistic. This is the goof section of the video. All optimism is abandoned, and the bottom line is, there are only a few simple ideas that easily debunk this whole damn thing. Like, hey, if the whole weird adventure with the floating house and dog pilots is a part of his transition, why does he fly back down to Earth? Why does he attend Russell's actual badge ceremony where we see his real mom? Why would a guardian angel even have a mom? Also, let's talk about Ellie's message to Carl left in the scrapbook. Thanks for the adventure, go find another one. Obviously, this shows us that the film is simply symbolic and all about Carl moving on, but this message is indicative of Carl's current reality. Is it a bit strange that Carl had never seen this message until this point in the film? Okay, fine, I'll give you that. But we all know there is one clear and simple debunk of all of this. The credits. We clearly see a montage of images of Russell and Carl hanging out and spending time together after their adventure. This pretty much seals the idea that it is real life. Why would he not be up in heaven with Ellie at this point? Facts are, Carl went on to live his life, learning valuable lessons on his adventure, and now, just like Ellie said, he found another one. You dug too deep, Disney fans. Okay, so we saw the proof, we saw the goof, time for the truth. So where are we landing on all of this? Is it legit or is it debunked? Well, normally we will land either on legit or debunked. But there is another option called, well... Okay. I know that choosing a middle ground on my first episode of this series is kind of lame, but take a second look. This theory is actually kind of amazing. The more and more I think about it, I become sure that the filmmakers meant this entire movie to be a story about coping with loss and moving on, and the afterlife parallels have to be intended. And I just keep coming back to all of the ghost movies of the world. No matter what the bizarre journey manifests as, the characters have to undergo some otherworldly task in order to pass onward, and I think that even the credit scenes can be included as a part of Carl's transitional phase. I can assure you that there will be much harsher debunks or legits in the future, but I chose to do this theory because it's my favorite theory on the internet. Up is one of my favorite Pixar movies ever, and impossibly, this theory made me love it even more. I believe the filmmakers intended each and every choice, and that all of the afterlife theories are laid out for people to discover. The theory is neither right nor wrong, it's simply dependent on how you look at the movie. So I implore you to give it a second watch through the lens of this theory. It is fascinating. And I'll leave you with one of my favorite things about this theory that comes at the very end in the credits. We finally see Russell's assisting the elderly badge, which clearly depicts a youngster helping an older person across a crosswalk or across the street. But with a different lens, you can see it as an angel guiding the inner child of a lost soul. Pretty interesting. Anyway, that is all I've got for you today. I hope you guys had a fun time delving deep into this theory. I've got lots more coming, so I hope you guys stay tuned. Huge thank you to the Stardust app for making this video possible. Stardust is a really awesome and totally free social media app dedicated to 30-second video reactions to movies, TV shows, and trailers. So it's an awesome place for people to share reviews and ideas about things right when they hit the scene. It's super nice for me because if I want to share some thoughts, it's a great way to do so without making a giant edited YouTube video. This is an awesome way to see what people are saying about something right after they got done watching it in an unpracticed, raw setting. I'm working on this huge Space Jam review, and I want you guys to be a part of it, so I need you to send me your reactions over on the Stardust app. I've actually posted a strange theory I have about Space Jam over on there. It's a little wacky, but check it out. Stardust will make it super easy for you guys to film reactions and let me know and see what you guys thought. And I will be including a few of your Space Jam thoughts in the full-scale review. It's going to be a huge video, and again, I need your help, so please do weigh in and follow me over on the app.